Sorry about that. We the call got Instagram cuts it out at 52 minutes, but we're back. I think we were in the middle of a very important conversation around binaries and why we can't exist in the gray, our reptilian brains, and our response to upper caste fragility. So.
Hi, welcome back.
Hey, can you see me? I can't see myself for some reason, but
I can see you.
So, yeah. Okay.
So you were talking about something very interesting and important. You were talking about the reptilian brain. When we're threatened, and you were talking about why it's so hard for us to exist in or speak about intersectionality. And then, that because we live in binaries and there is not a lot of engaging with the gray. And it's like black or white, 0 or 1, fat or thin,
Yeah.
fair or dark.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, there are so many binaries, right? And I think that makes intersectionality real, or engaging with the intersectionality doubly hard, right? But also, I mean, I don't know if you, this was probably 2 years ago, right? And there was this gruesome case of a mute girl in Chennai, a school girl, like, I don't know, 7th or 8th standard, being brutally, gang raped in an apartment complex by so many people that lived there and all that. My point is, when the news media were reporting it, they did not, they included the fact that, this girl was disabled in that sense, right? But so in there, I think we have no problems engaging with, intersectionality when it comes to that. But caste is such a political topic, isn't it? I don't know. And religion, of course. I think not all intersections are quite the same, isn't it?
Yeah, because there are some intersectionalities which I'm guilty of, right? Like someone being disabled doesn't quite benefit me, and in some way I've not quite contributed to it, consciously or unconsciously. But when it comes to caste, of course it benefits me if I'm upper caste, and I am, like it or not, I am contributing to it, and I'd rather not acknowledge it. So yeah, there are some intersectionalities that are not as comfortable as others are.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting a point that you made about kind of unearned privilege, and why we're so fragile and sort of defensive, I think, right? And I think the extreme of that is also saying that I don't see caste. Have you? I have been one of those people, right? Like at one point in life, I really thought, and that's how disconnected from ground reality I was, right? Like I was living in a different country, and there's so much else going on, and you kind of, I don't think it was like a conscious. I really didn't see it was like fish and water kind of thing, right? So I have said it myself. It's like not that I don't see caste, but that it doesn't exist as much as it used to, because I don't know. It's some way of telling yourself that your country is not as shit as you think it is. I don't know what it was, right? Like, you've heard some
So I
version of
continue on myself, right? I mean, it's also about absolving myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of blind spots, right? Like you think, I mean, I remember my sister and I calling out my granddad for using, casteist, terms. But at the same time, were we really aware of where the maid was, or if she eats, like, and there's so many layers to this, right? Like that we haven't really, we may not have, I'm sure we didn't pay attention to at that point. And it's just sort of, the more you learn, it's like, okay, um where I was going with all of that was this idea that all of us have unconsciously contributed to it in some fashion. And I guess that if we don't start examining it now, that's what we're passing on to our children.
And that's the reason why we need these conversations, however uncomfortable they might be. It becomes important to do these conversations with other people where possible. If not, please at least write in a diary, but have that conversation. It's critical, because otherwise we're leaving a legacy of unresolved and sometimes quite demonic systems, and yeah, that's what we leave for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, bringing it back to what does this work look like? You know, this unpacking of privilege, right? Like, where does one start and how does one go about exploring these? Like, if somebody really wanted to do this work and say, okay, I don't know enough, but I'm committed to learning and I'm committed to understanding what this is and I'm committed to doing what it takes. I don't, you know, where does one start with this? And, you know, are there resources? How do we do this work? I mean, yes, of course, we need to be talking more, but um, where does one go to explore more of this?
Well, there are, of course, different ways depending on what works for people. That there are a number of books around it. There's lots of resources online around identity and privilege and caste and all of that. I would think at the end of the day, it becomes about not so much about the academic knowing about these ideas, but what do I do with them, right? So in terms of, like, even if I have to, for example, look at myself and say, okay, in my regular day at home, even work is home now, so regular day at home, what's the kind of let's say time and energy allowed to the Brahmin in me, to the Kshatriya in me, to the Shudra in me, to the Vaishya in me, to the Avarna in me? What's the kind of time and energy allowed for each of these aspects of me? And I noticed throughout the lockdown, for example, for about 6 months, my building wasn't allowing domestic staff to come in. That simple act of cleaning the house was such a major thing in terms of I had to plan my entire day around it, and that's the last thing I wanted to do. And there's so much drama I would create for myself around the fact that I need to clean the house, right? And it's always last priority, and there's always some Zoom call that needs to be done, some phone call that needs to happen, and that's always more important. So I noticed how there's a very strong preference for the Vaishya and for the Brahmin, and I'd rather read a book than clean the house. So that there are these preferences I exhibit within me, and even as the Avarna in me needs that space, I mean the house needs cleaning. It's a matter of huge reluctance and effort, right? So if I'm doing that within me, and the simple act of cleaning needs so much effort that I have to keep reminding myself, okay, cleaning needs to be done, cleaning needs to be done. And after all that effort, there is some attention that goes there. Imagine the kind of effort I'm making. The kind of effort an Avarna person has to make around me for them to get my attention. If that part of me does not get attention and effort, then that's what I'm likely doing to the world around me. So if I'm able to at least notice that and say that, okay, if whether I like it or not, if there are things that need to be done, can I listen to that part of me? And if I'm able to listen and pay attention to that part of me, I'm also hopefully developing the capability to have that conversation with that part outside of me.
Yeah. The other thing about, and this is also about your peace building work is they're often highly politicized, isn't it? I think there is a lot of politicization of any kind of hierarchy, right? Gender, class, caste. But when for the peace building side of you, and when you work in such sort of binaries and highly politicized environments, how does it play out? And what is your role, I guess, in that context?
Well, how does it play out? Is I guess it plays out in the way it plays out in our regular lives.
In
So
terms of
it's
your,
not.
it's like, where are you placed in that context is the question, I guess.
So, well, my role is usually to facilitate dialogue. So what that
Yeah.
means is that I would typically look at managing the energy and the environment in a way that conversations can happen. So that's primarily where the role is. And yeah, like you say, it is politicized, but I think in the world that we live in, the personal is political.
Yes.
That's not a choice any longer. It is whether we like it or not. That's how it is. So yeah, that's something that we need to acknowledge, and also I would encourage reconnect with the, I tend to go back to the Platonic ideal of politics in terms of when Plato spoke about it, or Socrates spoke about politics. It was about can I develop my ethical axis and then help others do the same, support others in doing the same, not in terms of being a messiah or being a savior, but in terms of sharing something I've discovered about myself. Can I make that available to others and partake of others' insights as well? If you look at politics from that perspective, that you like when Plato in his book Republic, where he speaks about the allegory of the cave, it's about this person who goes out of the cave, discovers this big, bright, beautiful world, and then the instinct is to go back and to say, hey, guys, there's this world outside and it's beautiful. It's not about saying, okay, let me leave the guys in the cave and do my thing out in the world. It's politics for me is really that. I mean, if you have to look at the highest state we can aspire to politically, it is about, can we discover the beauty in the world and go back to get others to see it as well. So then it's not dirty, then it's not about corruption, it's not at all about power. It's simply about sharing the beauty you're able to perceive.
Yeah.
So if we can hold politics within ourselves in that way, and in the process, of course, engage with power or the lack of it, as the case may be, then but then that's not about personal power. It's not about me gaining power in any sense. It's really about me having agency in my own life and me working in a manner that others have agency in their lives. If you look at politics in that way, then that's not a dirty word.
Yeah. Well, that was so good. I think it was a wonderful conversation, and I think this idea that the personal is political and the political is personal. I think that's a huge thing. I think we need more women. I mean, men also, but women talking about politics and being more, conversant in understanding, intersectionality and forces, and being more vocal about it, right? I think because all of this affects us. I mean, it's not like we think that we go out to vote every once in a while and that's that, but everything is political, right? Like everything, your body is political, your being is political, your even right to exist in this world here is political, right? Like I don't know, if I were a fetus born in, I don't know, Haryana all those years ago, I
Yeah.
might have been killed, for example, right? Like even my right to live here is not something I think I had a choice about,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, powerful words, and I think this the part that you bring up about the internal parts work and the exiles and the shadow parts to ourselves and the things that and how that resonates with us as we move fluidly from that individual to the collective. I think there is a lot of depth and exploration into that side of us. So, thank you so much for this conversation. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, and I hope all of us have the resilience to continue this conversation internally and externally.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's a lot of vulnerability, right? Like it is very vulnerable. I think for me personally, I've been very nervous about. I mean, because I don't, it's like I hope I'm saying the right things and all of that. And then at one point, it's like I think we have to talk about it first, right? Like
And the point is, there isn't a right thing, right? It is what it is, and uh, what we need is perhaps the ability to look at the mirror and keep looking, no matter how ugly it looks.
yes. Yeah, that opens up a whole new can of worms about body and image and Ah, yeah. Well, thank you so very much, and I would love to continue this dialogue. And I hopefully it was useful for everybody that is listening or is going to listen. But talk to us about your thoughts. Please comment. Let's keep talking. The only way to do that is to change any of this is by just starting to talk about it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rukmini. You have a good night.
You too. Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.